Welcome to Wayward Part 4. In the last episode, we saw Charles, who had started building a structure that his parents knew not of. He had been warned not to do the structure, but he still decided to go ahead. In this episode, we're going to find out what happens. On that fateful day, no one was at home, and Charles, despite the warning from his mother and from the person who did the YouTube video, he decided to light his structure. He set it up in the back of his house. At first, he went towards the kitchen side. When he remembered the gas cylinder, he decided to go to another side. Positioned everything, planted his camera so that he could record it, and then he struck the first matchstick. This thing started burning very well, and Charles was very happy. All of a sudden, part of the structure fell off the table, and the dry grass caught on fire. Oh no! Charles was alarmed at what to do. While he was still thinking, a little breeze came and blew the fire towards the house. Charles began to shout for help. Fortunately, a neighbor was around and he had a fire extinguisher. He came running over and put out the fire where the experiment was set up. Charles also ran into the house to try and get a bucket of water. Some other neighbors also came. They helped him put out the fire on the grass and towards the house. Before long, the fire was put out. Fortunately, not much damage has been done. As one of the neighbors was about to call Charles' parents, he saw Charles' parents coming in. A very sober Charles went to bed that night. His phone had been taken away from him, and he would not be allowed to use it for a whole month. In addition to that, his allowance would be cut into half until all the damages had been paid for. Charles felt very bad. What had seemed like an excellent idea now appeared to be a foolish venture. That weekend, Maestro told Techie that he would like her to go with him to go and visit Edward. Techie thought about it for a while, and then she agreed to go. They went to Edward's house and they fortunately met him at home. They talked for a while, having a nice time, taking a sip of a drink and the snacks that Edward served. Before they left, Maestro shared what he had learned at Iglesia about honoring one's parents. Edward was touched about the sharing, and he requested that Techie and Maestro go and visit Charles. He gave him a summary of what had happened with Charles, and the two of them agreed that it was a good idea that they should go. If Charles had honored and obeyed his parents, what had happened would not have happened. After collecting the description of his house, Charles' house, the two of them went to visit him. They met him at home, and fortunately Charles was willing to listen to them. They had spent a few minutes talking. This time it was Techie who shared with Charles about honoring one's parents and obeying one's parents. When Techie finished, Charles did not know what to say. When he finally spoke, he said he'll think about all he had heard. The two of them, Techie and Maestro, got up and they left to return home. Maestro felt much better. The foul air that he had smelt seemed to have reduced a bit. Edward had gotten back on the right track, and he believed that Charles too would get on the right track. Meanwhile, Fresh Ranger and Bigas, who are part of the planning committee for the hike, were very busy. They were in charge of the food for both those going on to the forest and those going to the river. They had drawn up a budget for the sandwiches, fruits, cake, and drinks that the children will be taking. The money to be spent on this was going to be taken from the registration fee. for everybody going. Things were going as planned, and the two of them were very happy. The day for the hike was getting closer and closer. Edward had hoped he would have been allowed to go, but his parents were not at home. The two of them had traveled for a conference, a week-long conference, and he didn't feel that it was right for him to call them on the phone and say, "Dad, Mom, I'm sorry." He needed to wait for them to come back. Meanwhile, he was behaving like a good boy as he was being looked after by his grandparents. Finally, the D-Day arrived. The children were excited. Yes! Mr. Corday addressed everyone present, welcoming them and reminding them of a few ground rules. After that, they divided into two groups. The group going to the river. Those going to the river were coordinated by Mr. Larry and Miss Anu, and the group going to the forest were coordinated by Mr. Corday and Mrs. Sarah. They addressed them for a few minutes, and then it was time to go. Well, we have come to the end of today's episode. To find out what happens on the hike, join us next time for the continuation of Wayward. Bye.